Hey guys, this is Harris. I apologize. I've been basically out of commission for a few weeks now. I left a post a while back, basically the week after my last video. What happened is that my MacBook screen died, and that was the first of a few events that kept me busy for the past few weeks. And I'm still waiting on a few parts to come in to replace my MacBook Air. In the meantime, I've gotten myself set up on my gaming PC for recording, but the other issue I was running into was a few issues with Blender. As you can see, I'm using Godot. I'm just testing it out the first time here. I just created a water shader. Just, testing some depth effects and whatnot on it, but yeah, I'm gonna be holding off on Godot for a while. I ran into a few limitations with that software, mostly when it comes to VDBs, and if you're doing like complex animations, large particle systems, even with a 9070 XT, my rig is just no match for it. I just need lighter software to test, a lot of the heavier stuff. I was messing with Unreal Engine a bit again, trying to see if I could just maybe squeeze it down to fit into my rig without, the frame rate going down to like 60 or less. It's a heavy engine, Unreal Engine that is. I'm not a fan of it. So I decided to just call it quits on Godot. Quits on Unreal Engine as well as Unity. I'm going to be holding off on Blender for everything except for model making. For renders and stuff, I'm going to be using, I guess, the Godot engine for the time being. But my next few videos will be focused on Godot. As I'm learning this engine, I will be making videos on what I learn, and I'm going to try to see if I can get a few renders going on this, seeing how it looks. As you can see, I just have a background sky, which in the world environment, I believe it's the sky. For the sky, I set it to panorama, and then for the panorama, I downloaded this pure sky texture from Polyhaven and just placed it in here, and it looks pretty good. Let's see if I can disable a few gizmos. Yeah, it looks pretty good right here. This is on the version 4.6 stable. And past that, I downloaded a few textures, also from Polyhaven, for the wall, for the reflective material on this ball, and for this column, the rusty material that's on this, which goes up and it goes down, and you can see there is a bit of a depth field here on the shader, which for this I created a new shader material. Here is the shader. If you go to the shader editor, this is the shader that I was able to find for it, and just to test it out, just added a few parameters, such as the primary color, the secondary color, which show up here under the shader parameters. The normal maps are set using the fast noise set to cellular, and I enabled seamless and normalize, and this is something built into Godot 4.6, sorry, and it is set for both normal maps, which is using 2 of them. If you focus in here, you can see movement, where it's 2 textures going in different directions, creating this ripple effect. Those are the 2 normal maps, and they are moving. Created a roughness parameter, a depth texture, a screen texture, depth distance, Beer's law, transparency, refraction. Here's the 2 normal maps, the UV scale. Let me see if I can just start from the beginning, go slowly, or at least as slow as I can go. This quick function here just to get the Fresnel effect. And I'm gonna just be honest, a lot of this I found online. I am still very new to shaders. By default, any shader comes with a fragment and I think a vertex function. I removed the vertex function, I'm just focusing on the fragment for this one. And basically the fragment function updates every frame, so everything in the fragment function is what's being shown on the water texture. And the water texture is just a plane, like it's just a water plane. And for Godot, when you need to create a plane, you can just add a child node, mesh instance 3D, create. Let me just bring it out of there. And then here you can choose your mesh, and these are the basic mesh types. So let's just say capsule mesh. Let's just move it up here. Shift middle mouse button so I can move the camera. Yeah, that's how you can create a simple mesh in Godot. Let me just delete that. But yeah, back to the shader. It's got the UV scale, the UV movement, works with the normal maps, creates a refraction with the normal maps. Then it gets the depth and screen textures, gets the depth and world position, depth and view matrix. Anything that's light blue here, those are built-in macros inside Godot, inside the Godot shader system. So vertex is just being called based on the vertex of the plane. Same for the invisible projection matrix, the screen UVs. But everything that's white, like world, those are objects that I created in the shader. And basically it's data types that I added in to the shader that's working with. And going down a bit more, it's just finishing up all the calculations, and then finally what gets outputted is the normal map, roughness, and albedo. And this basically just takes all the calculations above and outputs them. And as you can see, they're shaded blue for the albedo, roughness, and normal map. So these are default parameters of the shader in Godot for this plane. So by assigning them these the outputs of the functions above, it gives you the water effect. Now this is a very rudimentary water. Hopefully I didn't mess up where it's located. Okay, let's see, where is the transform? I'll just set that back to 0. There we go. It's got a lot of information on the inspector here. But basically if you move any object, it doesn't create any water ripples or any wave effects that I still need to work on. Same thing for floatness. Objects cannot float on this water. It is just an aesthetic texture. And then for the walls, there's just 5 of them. 4 on the side, and then this one on the bottom. And those are using the plaster wall texture, which after downloading I created materials for these things. So there's the reflective metal, which is for the ball, the wall material for the 5 walls, the rusty column for this middle column here, and then the water texture, which is again water shader material. This is more for default material, but from the shader here it has all these parameters available and I can mess with them as is. And as you can see, I did change a few parameters here. So you can change the water's upper color, the secondary lower color, to give it a more or less realistic effect. Depth distance on how the colors blend. Changing it back to 4. Beer's law, again, just adds more to the effect. Water transparency. Yeah, should it's doing a little bit of something over there at the end over there. I'm just gonna set this 0.2 for now. The refraction, if you make it really high, it looks, let me just shift the camera here a bit. If you make the refraction really high, it kind of looks like the energy shields from Halo, at least the OG Halos, like the Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3. I'm just gonna set this to like 0.2 just to keep it low. The normal maps I mentioned, normal map strengths. Just gonna set this back to 0.3. That's 0.4. The movement for each of the 2 directions. So increasing it increases the speed of movement. The UV scale on how much the normal maps are being scaled. I'm just going to set it back to 1.2. And then the movement is just the movement speed. If you make it to like 1, it is really fast. 0.05 is a good middle point. So yeah, that's what I have for now. I'm gonna do a little bit more testing for the next video for the water here, and then after that I'm gonna try to recreate the scene I was making in Blender a few weeks back, where it was kind of like a cave with like a campfire. I'm gonna see if I can, how realistic I can make it look in Godot, and see how the rendering goes. Eventually I do want to make a few animations and a few renders, just a few 3D renders to see how it goes. And yeah, for the time being, this is going to be my go-to software. Any model making I'll still do on Blender, but for the actual rendering itself I'm just going to use Godot for the time being, because it is what runs on my machine the best without any of the issues that Unreal and Unity have. I know there's a few other game engines out there, but again, I'm still new to all this. I prefer engines that have good documentation as well as a little bit of longevity. If I go to something like completely unknown, like say Wicked Engine, it's a good engine. It is more powerful than Godot, but there's barely any documentation on it, and for a beginner like me on that, I am just not comfortable using that. At least not until there's a little more documentation or maturity on that engine. So yeah, Godot it is. Anyways, I just wanted to give you guys an update. I will be making my next few videos on Sundays, but after that I will be increasing the schedule, maybe doing making a new video every other day. Though right now it is still pending, just based on my situation right now. So yeah, I just want to give you guys this update. Anyways, I will talk to you guys next time. Ciao.